Hey guys, welcome back. So with all the talk about the new Weight Watcher plans coming out, there has been this resurgence of interest in Simply Filling as a plan. And if you follow Amy, N is for Nurse, you'll see she's done a brilliant job of describing what's happening with the new programs and talking a little bit about the purple plan, which originally people were saying was going to be Simply Filling. Now, as a Simply Filling girl myself, I lost all of my weight originally in 2005 when the plan was Core, and then that transitioned into Simply Filling on the Points Plus plan, and I followed it then. And then when I started this whole journey this time in late 2017, again, I did about a year to 14 months on Simply Filling. It is absolutely my program of choice, and it's something that I'm really familiar with. So when Amy and I were discussing the differences between the purple plan and Simply Filling, there are some really noticeable differences, and I just want to touch briefly on those. And for those of you who might be interested in doing the original Simply Filling plan, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that today as well. Now, when I started tracking this time around, I used iTrackBites, set to the what was then called Bites Plus and is now called Carb Conscious program, which is the equivalent of the way it was originally put out, which was with 49 weeklies and everything on the original Simply Filling list. I do have a link to a PDF of that in the description box below, as well as some other resources that I've put together that you can download if you want to. So briefly, Amy has covered on her channel the new plans in really good detail. I'm not going to go over those. Her channel is linked in the description box as well. You can certainly, I've linked to each of the individual videos, but here is the super condensed version. Okay, so 3 plans, green, blue, and purple. Green is bringing back Smart Points beyond the scale. That's where a lot of people had a 30-point minimum. You have fruits and vegetables, fruits and non-starchy vegetables on your 0 bite or 0 point list, and that has 100 items on the 0 list. Blue is Freestyle, pretty much as it is, the same 200 foods that you're used to. Again, it's green Smart Points, blue Freestyle, and then purple is what people were saying is going to be Simply Filling coming back. However, that's not quite true because there are really, really big differences. And some of the biggest differences are that there are no cereals, soups, breads. There's no healthy fats or oils. Proteins are limited to what is on the Freestyle list. So we used to have beef, pork, lamb, any other parts of poultry, game meats, none of that is on the purple plan. So what they have done, in my opinion, is they have taken Freestyle and they have added some carbs. So they've added some whole grains and they have added your potatoes. And so it's basically Freestyle with carbs. Now, they say that you have 300 foods, but in those 300 foods, there are almost 30 types of potatoes listed. There's 63 types of fish listed. There are 55 whole grains. So those 300 foods, it's not like one line says potato. Okay, so it is very different in that Simply Filling included soups, light breads, all types of proteins. There was a whole bunch of hot and cold cereals. You are recommended to have 2 teaspoons a day of oils, healthy oils that were not counted. And all of that is gone from the purple program. So that's the condensed version of the differences. And like I said, Amy's videos are in the description box. So if you want more details on the specifics of those, then certainly you can check out her videos there. But what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about today is if you want to still do Simply Filling as it was designed, how do you do it? And you can do one of two things. The workaround for this is pretty simple, but there are currently no apps that will show you whether a food falls into a Simply Filling category when you scan it. So there are no green circles, there are no indicators in any app that I'm aware of that will tell you if a food is Simply Filling. So I have a Simply Filling Facebook group, and in the albums section of that, there is a tremendous amount of branded items that are marked so that you know if you're looking for a bread or a wrap or something like that and you want to know, does this count? There are the criteria that I'm going to put right here. Okay, but I will also leave a link that you can download that. And so you either match it to that criteria, or you can go through the branded list in the albums of the Simply Filling group, which is also in the description box. Here's how it works. You have this really extensive list of foods that are called no count. So same as 0 points. You eat them in reasonable amounts. There are no portion sizes given. So Simply Filling is about learning to listen to your hunger signals and learning to eat mindfully. It's about eating healthier, eating a more whole food focus, and not having to track everything, but that leaves you having to be responsible for how much whole grain pasta you're eating or how many potatoes you're eating. And people have developed tons of different ways that they want to work that out. So some people will say, I will have 1 serving size of a potato, and let's say that serving size was 4 ounces. After the 4 ounces, some people will count the next portion, or they will just not have a bigger portion, or they will use some of the old rules which said that, you can only have this item once a day without counting it. So there's different ways that people handle the portion sizes and the serving size suggestions. But in general, the program was designed for you to eat until you're satisfied of items on this list, but not be full. And I will include a link to one of the typical hunger scales. And basically, your body takes about 20 minutes to recognize that it's full from when you start eating. So by slowing down and being more aware of what you're eating, it makes a huge difference. All of that said, here's the deal. If you want to do Simply Filling in the original program as it was paired with Points Plus, you'll need to use either paper tracking or an app like iTrackBites. And I am an iTrackBites fangirl. I am their head coach. So I use the iTrackBites app for that. Now I am currently doing calorie counting and not Simply Filling because of all the food sensitivities and intolerances that I have. There's a lot of stuff on the list that I need to do differently because of that. But in iTrackBites, you can choose to do Simply Filling either by using the carb conscious plan to be close to the Points Plus of the original design, or you can track using the Sugar Smart plan, which is like the Smart Points version, and how you do it works the same no matter which program you choose. Basically, what you're going to do, this is a workaround because like I said, no app that I'm aware of will let you scan an item and currently show you that it is Simply Filling. However, having said that, I am talking with our development team, and this is something that we are looking into developing further in iTrackBites. What I would love to see is us bring out a full version of Simply Filling. I don't know that that will happen, but it is under discussion. And if it is something that comes out where you can scan an item and it does come up, or there is a marker in the guide or anything like that, I'll be sure and let you guys know. I think that that's something fantastic that I really, really hope that we have in development. It will probably be early next year if that was going to happen, but it is under discussion. So that part is kind of exciting. But basically, and I'm going to go through and show you step by step, because it's really, really straightforward how you track it. I'm going to show you step by step. But basically what you're going to do is you're going to create an item that makes your dailies go to 0, because on Simply Filling, you have no dailies and you have only weeklies for the plan that you're on. On the purple plan, which is coming out, you have the reduced list of foods, but you also have dailies, weeklies, rollovers, and FitPoints. So there's a lot of extras that you are allowed there over the Simply Filling program, which gave you food list and weeklies, and then you did have your activity points as well. But there's no dailies, no rollovers in the Simply Filling program. When you lose weight and your points go down, you would edit that listing. So when my points went from, say, 32 to 30, then I would go in and I would change that listing to 30, and that way I'm still just taking my dailies out. When you do that each day, that leaves you with just your weeklies. Weeklies on Simply Filling are not extras. They're not extras on any plan, but in Simply Filling, they are simply for those items that don't fall on the no count list. So let's say, for example, and there's not a whole lot fresh or frozen or unprocessed that you can't have on there. But let's say, for example, in my case, I can't have fat-free or sugar-free or artificially sweetened, or there's a lot of preservatives and things that I can't have. So fat-free dairy is included on the no count list, but I can't have that. So I would need to spend weeklies to have a 2% or a full fat dairy. So I would, if I wanted to have sour cream, fat-free sour cream is included on the list, or fat-free milk, fat-free shredded cheese. I can't have those. So I would need to pay points in order to use my, or in order to have those items in my meal, and that would come out of my weekly total. If there's things that you have where you eat out, or you're having something that is, normally it's going to be more processed things, it's going to be some of your sauces, it's going to be just the little bits and pieces that you add. So for example, I know a lot of you drink tea and coffee and you have creamers or things like that in there. If it is not included on the no count list, then you would still pay your points for your creamer, and that would come off of your weeklies. But the list is pretty huge if you're eating fruit, vegetable, protein, whole grain. And if you can do fat-free dairy, a lot of your cooking essentials are in there. There's a ton of seasonings and condiments and all of this already on the list. There are some people that just eat on the list. That's it. Their goal is to not use their weeklies at all, and basically everything they eat just comes off the list and that's it. Not a problem. That's another way that you can work the program. In the original program, olives and avocado were on the list in core. And for those of us who eat both, me, it was very exciting to have those, and we were really disappointed that they didn't make the crossover onto the new Simply Filling program. When that came out on Points Plus, they were removed from the list. There are people, especially on Connect, and since Weight Watchers discontinued the program in November, a lot of people tweak it to work in whatever works for them. So I know people that count all lean meat, all, as long as it meets the USDA criteria for lean, which again, I've included that documentation in the description box. They count that on their program. Where If you looked it up in the tracker originally, in the Weight Watchers tracker, say for example, chicken thighs were still pointed, but chicken breast was not. But chicken thighs still meet the lean criteria of the USDA guideline. And if you compare it to something like beef, pork, and lamb, they have a very similar nutritional profile. And so a lot of people would add chicken thighs into their take on the program because they said, you know, look, it matches here. It's close enough in calories. I don't eat it that often. It's up to you. You can choose to be as strict or as lenient as you want. You know, we have people that do super, super strict keto, and then you've got like dirty keto. Same kind of idea. I know people that use olive or avocado in exchange for the same amount that they would have in oils in a day. And I'm a person, I don't cook with oil. I don't like it texturally. I don't like the taste of it. So I use butter instead of oil. And so there are things that you can kind of make work for you depending on what your personal tastes are and if you have any food sensitivities or allergies. You can absolutely do gluten-free. You can do it from a vegetarian or veganism standpoint really easily. It does include tofu, tempeh. It includes, now, the original Simply Filling program does include things like the meatless crumbles and the meatless sausages and things like that. Purple does not. Okay, so purple only tofu and tempeh made the list switching over there. It's also fantastic for anybody who is dealing with diabetes and you want to reduce your sugar intake. If you're looking to do a cleaner or more whole food focused lifestyle, it can work brilliantly for that. And just because something is on the list, because I've had people say to me, well, I don't want to do fat-free dairy. Don't do fat-free dairy. There's nothing saying that you have to use everything that's on the list just because it's on the list. My yogurt and sour cream are a perfect example. You know, I can't have them, so I pay the points to have the other ones. And if you're worried you're going to run out of weeklies, then you can still add activity points. So if I was going to make fajitas, for example, my meat is going to be no count. All of my veggies are going to be no count. My wrap is going to be no count as long as it meets the criteria. My refried beans, my rice, if I do a wild rice or a brown rice instead of white, all of that is no count. My salsa is no count. So then we get down to the only two items that I would need to count on a traditional fajita meal would be guacamole, because avocado is not on the list. And because I need to use sour cream that is not fat-free, I would count for that. So let's say, for example, that I was almost out of weeklies and I was like, oh, you know, I really want that, but I don't have the points for it. Go earn some activity points, use them, and you're done. It's not meant to be tricky or restrictive. In actual fact, a lot of times it's a little bit open, and some people really struggle with having too much freedom and not enough structure. And so I think that that is going to be the biggest thing that people need to remember, is that if you're going to do Simply Filling, you have to be willing to put in the work to do the mindfulness part of it. If you don't, and you just use it as a free-for-all list, you are going to do what people on Freestyle did when they first started, which is freak out a little bit and probably gain if you're not being reasonable about it and you're not recognizing when you're full. That's the huge component to that. That's the biggest thing that people need to understand about this program, is that it has an amazing food list. It can work for so many things. It's great for reducing your cholesterol, bringing your blood pressure down. It's great for diabetics, whole food, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free. There's so much that you can do with it. But like anything, there is potential for abuse if you struggle with portion sizes, then this is probably not a good idea, because you don't have to weigh, track, and measure everything. If you need that structure, Simply Filling may be too broad for you to find success until you learn how to do that. And so a lot of times what helps is if you start to get a better understanding on a program that is pointed, like green, which is going to be the Smart Points, or blue, which is going to be Freestyle, or if you want to join us on iTrackBites and do the old Points Plus program, Carb Conscious, or you want to go back to the original program, which on iTrackBites, that is called Conquer Cravings, and it is actually sort of a mashup of 1, 2, 3 Success, Momentum, and Turnaround. There were very slight rule changes between those in terms of how fiber was handled and things like that. So this has been condensed into one plan. That is going to give you a tremendous amount of structure because only non-starchy vegetables were 0. So you count all your fruits, you count pretty much everything except non-starchy vegetables. Then there is Carb Conscious, which has the fruits were added onto the 0 list. And of course, it's not a low carb program. Despite the name, it's not a low carb program. The idea is that it was the first program to consider carbohydrates in the equation. So where it was calories, fat, and fiber before, they changed it and they took out calories and they put in carbohydrates as a consideration. Then when they switched the program to Smart Points, they took out the carbohydrates, they put back in calories, and they put sugar into the equation. So Smart Points and Freestyle, which are Sugar Smart and Better Balance over on iTrackBites, they have that same calculation there. You can do Simply Filling and pair it with really any of the programs that you want. My personal suggestion, and this is just me, is that I like it paired with Points Plus or Carb Conscious, which was the original way that it was put out. It was paired, you got 49 weeklies, and those weeklies never decrease. So on Points Plus, you had 49 weeklies indefinitely. When they switched over to the Smart Points version and the Freestyle version, your weeklies are whatever you are assigned on that plan. So if you have 36 weeklies or if you have 42 weeklies on Freestyle, that is the number of weeklies that you would have to apply to the Simply Filling program if you choose to pair it with that. The difference is Smart Points and Freestyle weeklies do decrease as you lose. So not only do your dailies go down on those programs, which remember we're not using dailies in Simply Filling, but as they went down, your weeklies also go down. And on those programs, they drop in multiples of 7. And so if you choose to pair it with one of those programs, you will need to keep an eye on when your weeklies drop. Okay, so we have, there was a long tangent between that first instruction and that one, wasn't there? Sorry about that. So you have created this item, this line item, that gets rid of your dailies. The only thing you need to be tracking are things that are not on the no count list, and those items will come out of your weeklies. That's it in a nutshell. Now there are some little things, but in general, that's all you need to know, is that you do not have to, you certainly can, you do not have to track anything on the no count list. In iTrackBites, in one of the recent updates, they added tracking calories as a secondary measure. So you can, on your plan, turn on the bites or the points value for the plan. You can track all of that, but you can also keep an eye on what your calorie intake is. And if you are going to do that on Simply Filling, you have to remember that if you don't track it, it has no way of knowing what your calories were. So in that case, the tracking becomes completely different because you would still be putting those items into your tracker to track calories, but you would just make them 0. And I'll show you how to do that. So if you don't want to do a whole lot of tracking, then don't track anything on the no count list. However, turning on your calories measure is not going to do you any good if you're not tracking any food. 0 or not, it's not 0 calories. So that's one of the things that you have to decide. So you need to decide, am I going to track this on Points Plus in the original form? Am I going to track it on Smart Points, or am I going to track it on Freestyle? And then you would choose that plan in your iTrackBites app. You then decide, you create your line, your one item line that gets rid of your dailies. And then you decide if you want to turn on the calorie measure and track everything, or if you just want to only put in those items that you need to be tracking out of your weeklies. So the biggest difference is that with iTrackBites, you can use any of the plans to track on. With Weight Watchers, you need to track it under the only option that is currently available, which is the Freestyle plan. And then you have to decide if, when Purple comes out, do you want an even further reduced list? And if so, then you could just track Purple in the Weight Watchers app as it was intended. But I just wanted to sort of take time to kind of go over the options that you have for tracking if you were wanting to do it in the original way that it was designed, and the only way to track it on a Points Plus type system is to do that through iTrackBites. So in terms of determining if a food is simply filling or not, there are specific guideline criteria, which I confirmed with Weight Watchers before they ended the program, that it is the same as the program that was original, or it is the same as the guidelines that were written in 2016. And so I got confirmed rules for each food item, and those are in the description box. So if you don't know if a food counts, because when we scan, we have no way of telling, you basically look to see if it is on the no count food list first. If it's one of those gray areas where you're like, I don't know, then you can use the more specific guidelines to tell. And if you're still not sure, you can either message me, you can email me, you can join the Simply Filling Facebook group. We have lots and lots of people there that have been doing it for a long time, and they either remember what it was when it was marked, or they can just give you their opinion about whether they feel that it would be applicable or not. And in the end, you're going to have to decide. So if a new product has come out since the program has been discontinued, if you can't tell if it meets the guidelines for some reason, it really is going to be a matter of deciding for yourself. Weight Watchers has always said, let your weight loss be your guide. And so if you decide not to count something, but you're not seeing the weight loss that you think you should, then maybe that's the first thing to check. Check those items that you have allowed that maybe shouldn't be allowed, or double check with one of us, and we can tell you what we think, and then you can still decide for yourself what you want to do. Okay, this is way longer than I intended, and I do want to show you those things from a screen recording standpoint, so I'm going to jump off here, do that for you, and if you have any specific questions, you can leave them in the comments. You can email me, which is from dumpy2diva2017@gmail.com, and that is also in the description box. Or you can, like I said, come over and join us on Facebook. That is also in the description box. Okay, all the resources are there for you. If you decide that you want to do the original Simply Filling, we would love to have you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you need. Otherwise, if you want to hang out and jump onto the new programs that are coming out next month through Weight Watchers, do check out Amy's videos where she explains everything. She's done such a great job of that, and I think that her putting this information out, despite some people being very nasty about it, I don't understand that, but I think that you guys have so many options available to you. And I think that you can definitely find a program that works for you. And I am here to support you no matter what program you choose. I don't care if you're tracking in iTrackBites, if you're doing Weight Watchers, if you're doing straight calorie counting, if you're tracking on paper with a cardboard slider. I don't care. Your journey is your journey. It is not mine. And I am happy to help and to motivate and encourage and educate, but I'm not here to tell you that you have to do something in a specific way. So if you need help with something, by all means ask. Otherwise, I wish you the best of luck no matter what you choose. All right, let me show you those couple of things and we will call it a day.